Well, hello everyone. Welcome to tonight's pre-Emmy prep party. I'm Scott Jones, the head of content here at eMeals. Hopefully all of you have already poured a glass of wine. If not, now would be a good time to go ahead and pop that cork. So now most of you know that eMeals and Sterling Vineyards have partnered to create a special Emmys At-Home Watch Party menu for Sunday night's big event, the 72nd Annual Primetime Emmy Awards, where Sterling Vineyards is the official wine. Tonight, we're going to discuss the menu's recipes and wine pairings. You can ask food and wine related questions to ensure that you have the most successful at-home watch party possible. We're also going to announce the winner of the $1,000 gift card giveaway. But first, I want to welcome in my co-host, Master Sommelier, Gillian Ballance from Sterling Vineyards. Gillian, how's it going tonight?
It's great. Thank you. I'm here in Napa Valley. The skies are blue and harvest is underway. And it's such a happy time of year for us. So.
Yeah, I bet. So tell us a little bit about what you do, Gillian, and what it's like to work at Sterling Vineyards.
Sure. I am a master sommelier. I passed the rigorous exam in 2012 and was approached by this company to take on education and an ambassador role, which I am thoroughly thrilled and happy to do. I have a lot of passion, especially for wines of California. It's California Wine Month, by the way, so everybody's in California all month long. Or
that's right.
Year. How about for the rest of the year? That sounds good to me too. But Sterling Vineyards is it's just this is our 5th year of sponsoring, being the wine sponsor for the Emmys, which is great. That's really giving us this amazing partnership and platform to introduce our wines to the world.
Yeah.
As you can see from these beautiful slides.
Yeah, they're gorgeous.
Yeah, Sterling is actually one of the most visited wineries in all of Napa Valley. So typically we will have about 3 to 3.5 million visitors a year that come to Napa. And Scott, you've been here, I know, there's only one road.
Yeah.
And Sterling, even though it's at the very northern tip of this 30-mile valley, people flock to Sterling. There's so many reasons. One of them is that we have, we're the only gondola operated winery. So you have to take a tram to get up to the top, to the peak of the winery itself, which is a kind of a unique experience. And then we also have a self-guided winery tour. So you're overlooking all of the winemaking processes on your own time. So it's so many unique things about the property. You can see to the right, Harry Hansen. He's been our chief winemaker since 2008, so quite a while, and he's really done this complete 360 in the winery. He's gotten a lot of cool toys like optical sorters and things, that we take for granted, but that really, really enable you to showcase great fruit and do it to the very best. We were founded in 1964 by a gentleman named Peter Newton, and he owned a paper company in San Francisco, and he was from the UK, hence the name Sterling. So we try to carry on the tradition and pay homage to our founder, along with that kind of what I like to call the Renaissance of Napa, really in the late 60s. He acquired a lot of incredible vineyards, and you can see one of our vineyards right there pictured, but we kind of focus on the Calistoga northern end, some really incredible vineyards up on Diamond Mountain, all the things that we feel really add to complexity and making the best wines that we possibly can.
Yeah, I was going to ask you a question about that. I know that tonight we're going to look at wines from across your kind of growing region, from Napa up to the top of, like you said, Calistoga, and then going down into the Central Coast from Monterey County over to Paso Robles. But I'm looking at this picture here on the of just the beautiful vineyards, and I think most people think of, well, not most people, but a lot of people think of Napa Valley as like the flat valley part, or like Oakville, Rutherford, that part of it. But it looks like there's some, high elevation vineyards. You've got this lake there, so assume that water helps to moderate the temperature and make for really amazing growing regions. So how does the elevation and some of those other features help produce these wonderful Napa Valley wines?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I get to host people from all over the world, and we are so grateful when people come to Napa to enjoy the incredible wines here. And we're blessed with a great climate. We're blessed with, like you said, everything from mountain sites to valley floor, and it gives us different expressions of fruit. And sometimes we blend them, sometimes we keep the mountain sites different, but what you're seeing there is very high elevation, which gives us a huge temperature shift. So very, very cold at night, really warm during the day, but the air is cooler the higher up that you go. Not to say anything against valley floor, but it's nice to have all these different expressions and be able to explore them, be able to explain it to people, because I think a lot of people come to Napa Valley and maybe assume that all the wines are the same, right? Just like you said, valley floor, plush, ripe. But with mountain fruit, we definitely get structure. We get a little bit more reserved characters in the fruit. We harvest up on the mountains much later because the air temperatures are cooler. There's more sunlight, but the air temps are cooler, so we have a much longer growing season.
Yeah, and
yeah.
Well, I was going to say it's mid-September, like, in terms of those Napa Valley wines, like where you are at the Rutherford house, like when, how long until, the harvesters start rocking and rolling?
Well, I brought my tonight. No.
I love it. Fresh
but
from
I
the
wanted
vineyard.
to show everybody, this is where the clusters are. So we are to harvest over the next couple weeks. It'll be different blocks at different times, whatever the winemakers feel. And this is Cabernet Sauvignon from one of our ranches right out here. So things are going great this year, and harvest is underway, and it's like I said, a great time to be in the valley.
Yeah, I think people often, for those who have not spent a lot of time in wine country anywhere in the world, but I think people are blown away by how tiny wine grapes are, because you're really looking for that ratio of juice to skin to create the high quality wines. It's a whole lot different than your big old Thompson seedless grape.
For sure. Yeah. It definitely, the small berries add to the refinement and the character. So yeah. No, it's just this is actually a really unique clone of Cabernet Sauvignon that we grow in a lot of our vineyard sites. It's clone 4, which gives us a lot of really nice fruit expression, very fruity, versus other clones that tend to be more reserved and give us more tannin maybe. So, it's a never ending quest, right? To make the best that you can. We're constantly replanting vineyards. We're constantly improving in the wineries and the vineyards and everything that we do. So thankfully we have great winemakers like Harry to give us the best expression of our wine.
Well, I can't wait to talk about some of these wines that we'll be looking at tonight. So we'll get to the menu. Let me just kind of quickly say a few words about eMeals. From most of you would know this, but for those of you who are new to eMeals, we provide a weekly flow of dinner time inspiration across 15 different food style meal plans in our app. And we also offer entertaining menus, which is where you'll find the Emmys At-Home Watch Party, paired with a Sterling wine. So if you look at the slides from left to right, you would see that main screen that shows the full menu. You would click down into each recipe, see its ingredients, its instructions. There it shows the wine pairing. You would add it to your shopping list. And then once you've selected your recipes, the app automatically generates a shopping list that can be self-shopped or sent with one click to one of our integrated grocery partners like Walmart, Kroger, Instacart shipped, Amazon Fresh for pickup or home delivery. So we make it very easy. Now let's get to the good stuff, Gillian. Let's jump in and talk about that first recipe and the wine pairing. Whipped feta dip with pistachio mint pesto. I mean, all the awesome food groups are kind of represented in this one recipe. But here we've selected the Vintners Collection Chardonnay. So what's unique about that Vintners Collection Chardonnay that's, would be great for folks to know?
Great, and a great choice, honestly. Chardonnay is one of the most versatile grapes in the world and can show different expressions of fruit, either based on where it's grown or how it's made. And it is the #1 consumed varietal. Like, it's the most popular varietal in the world. People love Chardonnay. I am one of those. And I think that, again, just based on how you make it. So our Vintners Collection Chardonnay is actually sourced from the Central Coast. So a little bit cooler coastal sites.
So south of the Bay Area, right?
Exactly, yeah, like Monterey down to close to Santa Barbara.
Right.
This whole Central Coast expansion happened in the 70s, late 70s, when a lot of wineries up in Napa were running out of vineyard space. Right? Napa is only so big, it's not going to get bigger. And if you want to expand your label and really satisfy the thirst of the country, we ventured down to the Central Coast and planted some really, really fantastic vineyards that give us everything that we need, right? So the Vintners Collection is intentionally slightly less oaked. It's meant to be very refreshing, really kind of something that you could pair with anything. And what I love about this Chardonnay, and especially that you did crudité with it, is summer vegetables are perfect with this wine.
Yeah.
And then you have the kind of the savoriness of the pesto and the creaminess of the feta dip that really are accentuated by the acidity in the wine.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very refreshing, great pairing. Yeah.
And so when you're thinking about food and wine pairing principles, so if you had something like this whipped feta dip that's creamy, you've got the feta and the ricotta, and you love it, it's rich and it coats your tongue. So it's that acidity, right, that comes in and kind of cleanses your palate, refreshes. That you've got the acidity, your mouth is watering, your appetite stimulated, you're ready for another dip of the carrot into the dip, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you have to have delicious dip to eat your raw vegetables.
Yeah.
And this
the
one
water
is
chestnut's
perfect.
best friend, right?
This one's perfect because it's not too, it wasn't too like garlicky. Sometimes that worries me, but it's very mild and really, and like you said, it brings out the brightness and the acid. Also, vegetables like radishes and beans and carrots and things have a certain earthy taste to them.
Yes.
But the earthiness of the veggies kind of showcase the fruit a little bit better. It helps kind of bring it out, So, but when I'm thinking overall about food and wine pairing, I never go too extreme. I've always been a play it safe kind of person, like for like, match the textures of the dish to the wine, and you'll probably hit a home run every time.
Yeah, I agree. And those are great tips. And as it relates to the recipe, and everyone will see a common theme throughout this entire menu, is that most of it, if not all of these elements are, you can make ahead. So you're not stressed out at the last minute. For those who are going to be, pulling off all of the recipes or some of the recipes on Sunday night for the at-home watch party, you can be doing it incremental. So you're relaxed, you're enjoying the friends, and, it makes it nice and easy. Gillian, we have a question here from Betty, and she is asking if you have a bottle of Chardonnay or any wine for that matter, and you don't drink all of it. I don't know that happens to many people, but in the event that you have leftover wine, what's your best or your favorite tip for how to properly store that so you can maybe enjoy a glass the next day?
Yeah, great question, Betty. And I'm asked that all the time. And there's no perfect formula, right? And I was actually going to say, you might want to have several bottles of Vintner's Collection on hand for all that crudité, and, enjoy it the next day too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
In terms of, so for me, I've been a wine buyer for close to 30 years before I switched over to education. And one of my biggest pet peeves is when a wine just completely dies on you.
Right.
So the sign of good quality will always be a wine that you can put the cork back in, put it in the refrigerator, and the next day it tastes just as fresh and good. And it really should. I do like some of the home vacuum systems, the
vacuum vents,
and those are good. You just have to be careful not to over pump, because then you're taking good elements out of the wine. So a vacuum and just a couple pumps. But I got to tell you, even red wines I put in the fridge.
I do too.
Yeah, they really do help to preserve.
Wines that have a good hit of acidity, they tend, I mean, the truth is there are a lot of really young red wines that are actually better the next day after I've, let them sit in the refrigerator. I find that anything that has a good hit of acidity, a crispness to it, to me tends to be a good candidate for just chucking in the refrigerator and enjoying the next day.
Absolutely. Little back then, those reds, I call those nightstand wines, like when you still want that last sip of red wine once you get into bed. And then you the next day and it smells even better. You're like,
that's right.
I like to drink this now, but it's only 8 o'clock in the morning.
Well, the next recipe we have, Gillian, is one of my favorites. I love smoked salmon. I love it by itself. I love it when it's made into these wonderful little cakes. And this lemon dill sauce, you've got that, bright freshness of the lemon with that really fragrant dill sauce. And this seems to be, slightly more kind of bigger flavors here, a little more refined, seems to be, to me, and I think I'd love to get your thoughts on it, the perfect candidate for something like this Napa Valley wine, a little more specificity in terms of where the grapes are sourced, a different style of wine. But, what are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, so I think, like I said, I love Chardonnay. I think that where you grow it and how you make it really kind of creates that point of differentiation.
Right.
If your viewers are tasting them side by side, you can definitely see that, because up here in Napa, we're in a little bit of a warmer climate. And this Napa Valley Chardonnay specifically sees a little bit more oak, right? So riper sensation of the fruit coupled with a little bit more oak will give you a richer style of Chardonnay.
Right.
And which is why, as you move into heavier dishes like smoked salmon, these cakes
can handle that.
Outside, they have a nice smoky flavor that picks up the oak in the wine really beautifully.
Yeah.
And then texturally too, right? Smoked salmon has this rich texture. So
yes,
aging Chardonnay and oak will give you a richer textural element that tends to work really well, you know, with dishes like this. And
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice for how you actually can take the same grape, but take a kind of a more bold, robust version of that same grape and kind of step it up in terms of a more robust food. And that's just one of the
absolutely.
things I love so much about pairing food and wine together is finding these little nuances and, you know, kind of learning how you step up the ladder.
Yeah, and there's a couple of winemaking techniques, not to get too geeky, but things that can enhance that richness and texture, like
Yeah,
aging the wine on the fine lees after it's been fermented,
right.
or starting a secondary fermentation that kind of transforms your acids from really tart to more buttery, right?
Yes.
So, you know, it's up to the consumer to figure out what style of Chardonnay they like. And, you know, I think obviously having the avenue of pairing food is the best way to find that style that you really love.
Yeah, well, actually, that we have another question here, Gillian, from Ross, and he is asking, when you have, you mentioned some of the attributes of a wine like this, so, and looking at some of the aromas and flavors.
Yeah.
So when you say things like lime zest or vanilla or you know, any of the aromas and kind of primary flavors, where do those come from? I mean, you know, they're not you're not co-fermenting those other fruits or
It
vanilla
sounds
beans,
crazy,
like,
doesn't it?
where does all that come from?
Well, the tasting vocabulary had to be derived from things that we know and taste. And believe
Right.
it or not, the chemical compounds that are found in grapes, once you ferment them into wine, are very similar to other things that grow in nature.
Okay.
You know, Sauvignon Blanc is one of my favorite examples of this, because Sauvignon Blanc tastes like green bell peppers.
Right.
It actually has a chemical compound in it called pyrazines, which are found in green bell peppers as well, and jalapeno peppers.
Yeah.
That's also found in the Sauvignon Blanc varietal. So, you know, we use these terms because we're trying to call out different things. Now, where it gets a little dicey is because a lot of winemaking, barrel aging, those kinds of things will also add another layer of flavor.
Right.
Like
And
vanilla.
that's where you would get those numbers like vanilla, caramel, some of those toasted,
A lot of those
caramelized
come
sugar.
from barrel.
That's coming from the barrel, right?
Yep. So it is upon us as wine professionals, and what you guys do so brilliantly is to say, hey, this is what we find in the glass, and let people identify with it. And as a master,
Exactly.
that is what you do. You learn to taste blind and identify all these characteristics so that you can better describe wine to people, and help them, guide them to make better selections.
Yeah, great stuff. I think we're all going to take our dip our toe into our local wine education program so we can learn a little bit more about that. Let me mention one of the things that I love about this recipe is the secret ingredient to this recipe that gives it this wonderful texture and lets it hold up so well. Even when you can make these ahead, store them in the refrigerator, and then just, you know, sear them off in a pan to crisp up the little panko breadcrumbs. But refrigerated sour cream and chive mashed potatoes are the magic binder for these little cakes. And even if I'm making chicken cakes, salmon cakes, that is my favorite little secret binder. And I think once
zucchini.
Folks, that's
like
exactly.
Summer squash and Chardonnay would be a great one too, if friends out there.
Yeah. So you know, fantastic recipe, easy to make ahead, and always a crowd favorite. Like you were saying, you probably want to get multiple bottles of the Vintner's Collection. You definitely want to double this recipe because these things just go super fast. So we've talked about the white wines. Now let's bounce over to the red wines. And prior to us coming on live tonight, Gillian, you were talking about how much you love this recipe. And there's so many things to love about this recipe.
I love it.
First of all, there's something about
potato chips. You
potato
can't see
chips
from the glare, but I have it right here.
That's right. And you've got the Parmesan, which loves red wine anyway, particularly Cab. You have that truffle oil that's so fragrant, and you've got black pepper, and then you've got that ranch. I dare anyone not to fill their plate up with this. This will be another crowd favorite. But again, stepping back to that more Central Coast, slightly cooler climate expression of Cabernet Sauvignon, what makes this Vintner's Collection so perfect for this kind of recipe?
Yeah, and you know, I just want to not to circle back on the Chardonnay, but we established this range called the Vintner's Collection when we did expand down to the Central Coast. But really, our goal was varietal expression, right? So
Yeah.
you get all of the great notes of Cabernet Sauvignon.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. But we wanted the wines to be approachable, both price-wise and food-friendly wise,
Yeah.
right? So
yeah,
this is a pretty, albeit I loved making it because it's so easy
yeah,
to make, like way easier than the salmon cakes, but it's very complex, right? Because you have truffle oil, you have the saltiness of the
You've got
chip,
those layers of flavors
of the ranch.
Yeah.
You almost want something that is a little bit more subtle, a little bit more, you know, less oak involved, less tannins, but really fruity. Certainly there's enough tannin to kind of bite through the fattiness and the sweetness of the chips, but it's not challenging it in any way. And really that's what I think Vintner's Collection wines do the best is their approachability and food-friendly nature, for sure.
Yeah.
That's why it goes so well with this, for sure.
Yeah, when I was thinking about this and we were developing the recipe, one of the things that I kept coming back to was, and actually added it as one of the bullet points, I would totally next level this by putting some diced chorizo or bacon, just to kind of echo that little bit of oak, not overpower it, but just to, and also with that chorizo, that little bit of little smoked paprika, a little bit of heat. You know, you could, this is a super, like you said, lots of cool, complex flavors here, but is also provides a palette for adding some other things if you wanted to, you know, riff on it a little bit. But just a terrific recipe.
Yeah, and again, just adding the chorizo or bacon, that is also pretty easy to do, right? So,
yeah.
you know.
So, Gillian, Sandra is asking, you mentioned that Chardonnay is the world's most popular white wine. Where does Cabernet Sauvignon stack up in the world of red wine?
It's the world's most popular red varietal.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just, I'm thrilled that Sterling champions both of those in every way and at every price point. But yeah, Cabernet is the most widely planted red varietal and most widely consumed. So what's about Cabernet is it has a very strong character, a very good, we like to call it strong DNA, right? And you can plant it all over the world and it will grow. It'll have different expressions, but it will still carry that black fruit stamp, a little bit more tannins because the skins are really thick, unlike something finicky, terrible like Pinot Noir.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, terrible to grow. I love Pinot Noir. I think it's
but a very difficult
varietal,
to grow. You're right. Real thin skin.
You can't plant it anywhere in the world. And, you know, I think that's kind of adds to the popularity again, that people can really identify with the flavors of Cabernet because they're very strong.
Yeah. And just to continue on that thought, I'm looking now, Sandra followed up with what is the element in Cabernet that kind of dries her tongue a little bit? And we know that's tannins, but help us understand where that comes from, why it's in there, and what's good about tannin.
Yeah, it's a great question. The tannins are found in the skins of the grapes, but you can also enhance tannin by barrel aging.
Good. Okay.
One of the things that I like to compare it to is, for Sandra, if you're a tea drinker and you leave the tea bag in too long, it's that same slight bitter drying effect, right? And that's why we love a little bit of milk and maybe a little sugar in the tea to soften the tannin.
Soften it, yeah, round out the edges.
Yeah, and that's basically what the fruit characters do. And
right.
And time in the bottle, all those things. But the tannin is the drying nature found in a lot of different things. And it kind of strips the moisture from your mouth, but it's also what makes you crave something that's fatty, because it will work with your palate to kind of cleanse, if you will, like taking a big bite of steak and washing it. A wine that has a lot of tannins, it makes sense.
Yeah, I think about a big ribeye or grilled lamb chops when I think of big full-bodied red wines with tannins that can kind of stand up to those things. And is it true that tannins also help or act as a preservative? Are they part of what lets red wines actually have some of that aging power?
Thank you. Yes, it is definitely an important building block in the ageability of a wine. It's also the acidity. It's also the alcohol. It's all of those things in combination that will give you a little bit more longevity in the bottle, for sure. Yeah.
Well, delicious. This is a delicious wine. And as you pointed out, this is such a great pairing. And, above and beyond this pairing, this is one of those wines that you could have with burgers, with lasagna. It has so much flexibility, whether you're entertaining or it's a Tuesday night, when you're just having dinner. It's really a really refreshing wine that is just loves food.
Yeah, it for the price point, it drinks above its weight class, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's a great bottle to bring to parties too, because of that approachability, and we recently kind of redid the packaging and relaunched some of the wine. So I really enjoy the look also of the Vintners collection.
Well, that actually, I have a question that I want to ask. In terms of your new packaging, I noticed that the vintage label is on the back.
Mm-hmm.
For those who don't really understand, they see the date on the bottle. What does the vintage date really mean?
It basically means the year that the grapes were harvested, right?
Got it. Okay.
An annual cycle. We harvest fruit one time a year, and so the vintage will be the date of that harvest. Now, this is a huge generalization because there's plenty of white wines in the world that can age way beyond.
Right.
But in general, you want your white wines to be younger, right? You want right now for white wines to be drinking maybe 18s and 19s.
Got it.
Whereas Cabernet Sauvignon, because of the long aging process, the maturing in oak, many of them take close to 2 years before they're bottled and ready to go. You'll generally be a year or two behind. So right now we're releasing our 17s into the market.
Got it.
And that's just because of that longer aging time for.
Yeah, so let them get a little bit more maturity in the bottle, let the elements come together a little bit. So when the consumers pop the cork, it's ready to go, ready to enjoy.
Exactly.
And just in terms of enjoying a bottle of red wine, do you decant a wine always? Do you is there any advantage to opening it up, early and letting it breathe, or what are some of the tips that folks might be able to use at home when it comes to enhancing the enjoyment of a red wine?
I'm trying to think of some general tips, but you know, it's hard. I think with different grape varietals, some
Right.
longer to open up than others because there's more. There is more tannin.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do feel like always swirling, especially for reds, and using a larger glass. It actually helps to break up the chemical compounds that give you the aromas
Right.
that you're looking for. So swirling is an act of breaking up those chemical compounds and really unleashing the great aromas. So
Yeah, I've often found myself telling friends that when they're swirling the glass, the alcohol, which is volatile. If you think about spraying perfume or cologne on your arm, it's alcohol based. The alcohol evaporates, the perfume sticks, and that's kind of like what you were saying. The alcohol coats the glass, kind of launches the aromas into the bowl of the glass and allows you to experience it. So it's not just a fussy sommelier thing when you're when you're swirling the glass, right?
Exactly.
You're giving us permission to do that.
Yeah. And also, you know, you brought up a good point about decanting. So, you know, if I open a young red wine,
right,
I probably will put it into a decanter, especially if it's just two people enjoying it. You're going to want to decant it. If there's 6 of you, you're going to pour it out pretty much one swoop. So no need, but use some bigger glasses and definitely swirl the wine around a little bit.
Gotcha. Well, while everyone is swirling like a professional sommelier their red wine, let's talk about the skewers. You've got garlic, you've got butter, you've got sirloin, you've got horseradish and Dijon mustard. I mean, what else could you pile on in terms of the kind of the perfect dish for this Napa cab? Goodness gracious. So we talked about kind of the expression of that Central Coast cab, and now we're moving back to more specificity around the Napa Valley expression of Cabernet. This I can taste it and smell it. It's a little more oak, I'm assuming. It feels like it has a more generous oak program, but still a really delicious wine. So what's the magic in this one?
So our Napa Valley cab, you know, we were based up in Calistoga, but over time, Sterling has, you know, created this great collection of vineyards throughout Napa Valley.
Right.
So it is a multi kind of appellation sourcing wine. So we are taking some valley floor, ripe lush fruit, and coupling that with some mountain sites to give us a little bit of structure.
Yeah.
This is aged for about 20 months in partially new barrels. So you're getting a lot of the French oak elements here with the big ice and the vanilla and kind of the mocha characters.
Yeah, it has a delicious aroma. I mean, it really makes you want to eat and drink just by smelling the wine.
Yeah, and where the Vintners collection is, like we said, a little bit more approachable. It's meant to be kind of your everyday go-to Cabernet. It's not 100% Cabernet. So that's where we're switching gears. We're moving into Napa Valley, into warmer territory. We are using more time in French oak and 100% Cabernet Sauvignon. So very different expressions, both exceptional. But what I love about kind of the buttery, garlic, all the flavors that are going on is they really do they bring out a brightness of the fruit. Yes. So very, very enjoyable pairing.
Yeah, it's so cool to do this with someone like you who can talk us through this, because just like I experienced between the whipped feta dip and then moving up to the salmon cakes, I can definitely feel that kind of jump up and a little more complexity, you know, a little heartier. I mean, now we started with a kind of a lighter style cab, if you will, you know, and then now we're moving into something a little more heft, a little more complexity. And it makes sense that we would step up to that sirloin. So it's neat to see the progression.
It really is. And I mean, you guys make it so incredibly simple too, where
Yeah.
just, hey, what are the pros doing? Okay, this is their recommendation, in the cart, and it's done, you know, and it's just, it couldn't be, you know, I always feel like a lot of the emphasis is taken off of food and wine pairing, which is fine, right? We want people to drink wine and we want people to eat great food in the company of loved ones. And it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, but if you are really looking for this kind of amazing progression, then you have provided the perfect vehicle for doing that.
Yeah, well, I'm, you know, it's one of those things where when our team gets together to develop these menus in concert with a partner like Sterling Vineyards, you know, not only are we trying to create, you know, the perfect pairing menu for folks who would enjoy it, but we love it ourselves. I mean, we can sit around and just go crazy as food lovers and see that same progression. I knew this was coming, or I had hoped it was coming, but Harry said, can he get fries with that? And, you know, I would absolutely, if I had some little thin, crisp fries to put into that dipping sauce, holy smokes, that would be that'd be a great addition.
Yeah, but if you've already got the chips, you know.
Yeah, just go ahead and just move right on. Take the chips to the next recipe. So Gillian, we have a question from Walker, and he's asking, what's the kind of the ideal serving temperature for your Chardonnay and for the Cabernet Sauvignon? Because I feel like many times we kind of get it backwards. We serve our white wines too cold and our red wines too warm. And we're, you know, when that happens, I feel like a lot of people are kind of missing some of those beautiful nuances that are kind of clobbered by the warmth or clobbered by the cold.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's been so many great questions tonight, by the way, and that one is also really good. You know, I think that young white wines that are meant to be crisp, you know, Sauvignon Blancs, Gruner Veltliners,
right?
You know, those you want to be a little bit colder, you know, kind of in the low 50s. I think a general good serving temperature for red wines is cellar temp, so somewhere close to 60, maybe a little bit higher if it's a more full-bodied expression.
Got it.
So, but I agree with you. Temperature is important, and it's important into how the wine expresses itself, because something like Cabernet Sauvignon has tannins and generally higher in alcohol. You know, at cellar temp, none of those things will stand out. It'll just be, you know, at perfect drinkability when you serve at cellar temp. But that's
so I'm going to put you on the spot for a second.
Yeah.
I have to do this. So I go to a restaurant tomorrow night and I order a bottle of the Napa Valley Cab, right? And as a consumer, when the wine steward brings the bottle over, because I'm sure many of us have bought bottles in restaurants, and you're kind of the anxiety of they bring the bottle to you. What do I do? What are we looking for? Do we want to touch the bottle and make sure it's cool to the touch? I mean, you know, white wines, I guess, are maybe a little bit easier, but how do we know when we're getting a bottle of red wine that's been stored properly, especially a really wonderful bottle like that, like your Napa Valley Cab?
You know, it's so hard, especially depending on where you live.
Yeah.
And in the summertime, and, you know, and unfortunately, not every restaurant has the capability of a temperature controlled cellar.
Right.
However, I think it's always fine I would never touch the bottle. I would just let them pour it
Yep.
and
Okay.
maybe put it into a chiller.
Gotcha.
Few
Okay.
minutes.
Well,
If you like the
great
wine,
tips.
there's nothing wrong with asking for a little sleeve or something. But I would be very suspect, and it's always good to look at the cork too.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
why proper wine service will always present you with the cork.
Yep.
Because the bottle was stored stored inappropriately, or if the wine got too warm, the wine is going to seep to the top of the cork, so you
Gotcha.
don't see
Gotcha.
wine on the top. That means bad storage and probably not the perfect example of the wine.
Okay. Well, all great tips that
The
we
sun
can
is
use.
changing.
Yeah, at home or at the restaurant. And yeah, I can. It's right. You're the sun setting there in Napa, or at least going down.
Shifting,
So
yeah,
this
shifting.
is the kind of the coup de grace of the menu. We've got this wonderful Blanc de Blanc and these amazing little toffee brownie shots that are so over the top. And I know that we could probably pair an entire menu with nothing but sparkling wine. It just seems to be happy juice that everyone loves. So you could have it with everything from those potato chips, but it's also delicious with dessert, and it's got a cork that pops. So why does everyone love sparkling wine, Gillian?
It's festive. It makes you feel happy.
Yeah, it does.
This is a great, kind of as you're nearing the end of the Emmys and they're getting up to the top awards.
Yes.
Top a bottle.
That's right.
Festive. It's also much lower in alcohol, and I think I have a saying that you drink sparkling wine in the morning. Around noon, you get into some white wines. Late afternoon, rosé, and then into the evening, it's red.
Yeah.
And if you stay up long enough, you're into ports and sherries and Madeiras.
Okay. I'm writing all this down.
But I'm so thrilled at how sparkling wine has just kind of ignited a passion for things that sparkle in the United States. I remember running wine programs 20 years ago, and I would only have one sparkling wine on by the glass because I didn't want it to go flat.
Right.
Fast forward 15 years, you have 5 or 6 because people demand it. Now, there's very unique characteristics about different sparkling wines, but really the most fundamental one is whether the secondary fermentation happened in the bottle and
Gotcha. Which
a lot of aging. So you're getting those really complex notes, or whether you like something like this or a Prosecco that does not undergo a second fermentation bottle. So the aromas are very fresh, fruity, and it's really like kind of supple and easy to drink.
Gotcha.
Can be very high in acid and kind of austere. I think that's what people love, like the Sterling Blanc de Blanc or a Prosecco. They're made in a similar style to where you get fruit, you get a little slightly creamier mouthfeel, as your excellent notes say. So,
well, and so real quick, Gillian, for those who are kind of new to sparkling wine, I know that the notes are 100% Chardonnay, but Blanc de Blanc means the white of the white, right? So that's when you see that's telling you that it's 100% Chardonnay in the bottle, correct?
Exactly, or a white grape varietal. It doesn't.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
Usually does not have to be Chardonnay, but usually it does signify that, and definitely in the case of Champagne, that's what that would mean.
Gotcha.
It means it's white of white. So versus Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, where you have a dark skin grape, but you're essentially pressing the juice right off the skin, so you're not getting any of the color. And that's why when people go, oh wait, there's Pinot Noir in here, but it's not red or pink, it's because the juice is getting pressed right off the skins immediately.
Yeah,
But
well,
100% Chardonnay.
I was going to say, I don't care what grapes in there. When those bubbles are going and you have a scoop of this, creamy, that creamy filling and the bubbles are kind of going and it's mixing, there's just something magic that happens that, again, I don't know that folks always think about sparkling wine with food. I think for some people, they feel like it has to be the exclusive domain of like a toast or an aperitif, but having it with food is absolutely wonderful. And this is one of those times when it works so well with desserts. And also there's that little hint of residual sugar that kind of makes it cozy up to a dessert and just makes it kind of the perfect pairing.
Yeah. I mean, I know people love chocolate and Cabernet because some of the flavor profiles are very similar, but really in the case of especially this dessert, there's a creaminess, there's sweetness,
Yes.
and you have like sparkly bubbles and like you said, that little hint of residual sweetness that will just kind of accentuate all the flavors and work really well together.
Yeah, and I can't encourage folks enough to not forget about this pairing, or just the Blanc de Blanc is fine if you just want to take a bottle and go into the other room and have it for yourself. But really, this is a great pairing that if you and your friends are having a great time and like you said, Gillian, it's getting toward the end of the Emmys and you need that little sweetness of dessert, definitely save a little bit or a lot of the Blanc de Blanc for
time to celebrate the wins.
That's right. And you know what? We've got a few more things to cover. I'll just say this. I don't know about you, but I've been kind of nibbling pre and kind of during, but I'm starving just thinking about all of these awesome foods and this wine, and it just I wish I could do this every day, but I'm really looking forward to rolling out this menu with my friends on Sunday night, and that actually leads me into the next kind of big point of the night, which I mentioned early, when we first started, which was announcing the winner of the $1,000 gift card. And I know you have your Emmy award there, but Gillian, if you can give us your best sommelier drum roll for a second. Okay, and for those of you who entered entered for the giveaway, I'm happy to announce that Hannah Darrow is the winner of the $1,000 gift card. So congratulations, Hannah. Someone from the eMeals team will be in touch with you early next week. And in the meantime, let me assure you, and I think Julian would echo this, that everyone will be a winner on Sunday night when you bring that little touch of Hollywood sparkle to your home for the big awards night. And I think you serve these wines with these wonderful dishes, and you will definitely be getting a standing ovation in your living room, your back patio, wherever you're hosting the party.
So fun, so much fun.
I do want to remind everyone that if you need to get one of the recipes, or if you want to get the whole menu, you can always visit the special website that we have, eMeals.com/Emmys, and you can get the recipes there. You can have the groceries sent over to one of our integrated grocery partners for pickup or delivery. So on behalf of eMeals and Sterling Vineyards, Gillian and I would just thank you for joining us tonight for this pre-party event, and hope all of you have a safe and wonderful weekend. and hope you enjoy the Emmys party on Sunday night. And again, Gillian, thank you so much for lending your expertise and for being part of this wonderful webinar tonight.
It's my pleasure. I love what you are doing. Love, love, love it. And I'm so thrilled that Sterling can play such a huge role and in everyone's living rooms as they're watching the Emmys, because you see Sterling wines too. So
that's right.
and the dishes are so well selected and so well paired to the wines, and it just couldn't be easier or more fun. So
yeah,
thank you guys too, and thank all your viewers for supporting these wonderful selections.
You bet. Well, we're thrilled to be working with your team, and again, hope everyone has a wonderful Friday night and a great weekend. And we'll hope to see everyone on another webinar soon. So take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.